The story begins with a boy named Gabimaru about to be executed. The executioner attempts to behead him, but his sword breaks against Gabimaru's neck, surprising everyone. Gabimaru returns to his cell, where we learn that he was trained as a shinobi from childhood, giving him a superhuman physique. A woman named Sajiri records the event, noting that a shinobi like Gabimaru can break a blade with his flesh easily. Gabimaru mocks the executioner's poor swordsmanship. The next day, the Lord orders Gabimaru to be burned at the stake. Despite being engulfed in flames, Gabimaru remains unscathed, frustrating the Lord. Gabimaru insists he isn't resisting and actually wants to die. Sajiri, who documents events, learns from Gabimaru that he doesn't know his parents and believes they were killed by the village chief when he was a baby. Gabimaru states that shinobis live only to kill as ordered and reveals he was captured after being betrayed by his cohorts when he tried to leave the village, which doesn't allow anyone to leave. The following day, the Lord orders Gabimaru to be torn apart by bulls. Gabimaru overpowers the bulls, exhausting them. Sajiri questions him about his desire to leave the village. Gabimaru reveals he was the best in his village, even marrying the chief's daughter, but got tired of his wife's naivety and expressed his wish to leave, leading to his current situation. That evening, an observer warns Sajiri about Gabimaru, calling him a hollow man who killed 20 people before his capture. However, Sajiri wonders why someone hollow would fight so hard. Gabimaru indeed has been resisting execution attempts, but decides to end it all the next day. In his next execution, Gabimaru is boiled in hot oil but survives. He wonders why he can't die despite having no attachments. The Lord is desperate for his death, but Sajiri informs him of a new arrangement. Gabimaru is led through a tunnel, where he finds Sajiri waiting. The Lord reveals she is an expert executioner from the Amana clan, capable of beheading him in one blow. Gabimaru breaks his restraints and evades Sajiri's attacks, shocked when she manages to cut his neck. Sajiri deduces that Gabimaru loves his wife, which is why he won't let himself be killed. Gabimaru realizes this is true, recalling how his wife softened him. He fights Sajiri, who challenges him on his self-deception. He insists he is hollow, but Sajiri tells him he can live like a human, showing him a pardon that will clear his crimes if he undertakes a mission to the underworld. Sajiri explains about Shinsenkyo, a recently discovered land said to contain an elixir of immortality. A previous expedition returned with a boat full of flowers and a body, prompting the shogun to send criminals to find the elixir, promising them a pardon if successful. Sajiri sees Gabimaru as a suitable candidate and tells him his wife awaits him in the village, motivating him to join the expedition. The Lord orders his men to attack, but Gabimaru uses his ninjutsu to defeat them, agreeing to the mission to reunite with his wife. In a flashback, Sajiri witnesses her father's flawless execution technique and strives to replicate it, but is haunted by the people she kills. A man named Aizen observes her doubt and fear, advising her to see the truth in her blade's reflection. Back in the present, Sajiri blindfolds Gabimaru and joins him with other criminals as they receive orders to travel to Shinsenkyo to retrieve the elixir of life, with a promise of freedom upon success. The atmosphere shifts as criminals realize they can earn their freedom. The speaker describes the island, but criminals, skeptical, interrupt, calling it a fairy tale. They are shown a man with flowers growing from his body, having returned from the expedition in a gruesome state. An official reminds them of their death sentences, framing the mission as a generous offer. Narugai, a criminal, questions the island's unknown dangers and the elixir's existence. An official invites those unwilling to participate to leave, but a man is executed when he tries to do so. They are warned that Yamada clan monitors will kill them if they misbehave, and if the monitors die, the criminals will be executed. The shogun decides to reduce their numbers, leading to a violent brawl among the criminals. Chobei, a criminal, realizes the officials want them to kill each other. Amid the chaos, Aizen tells Sajiri that the island will be even more brutal, questioning her suitability for the mission. Sajiri recalls childhood bullies and her family's reputation, seeing spirits haunting her sword. In the present, some criminals attempt to escape and charge at Sajiri. Aizen questions Sajiri's ability to handle herself as the criminals see her as an easy target. However, Sajiri, accepting her role as an executioner, swiftly defeats them. Despite her prowess, she is haunted by the spirits of her victims, which disappear when Gabimaru remarks that killing is never justified. Gabimaru asks if there's a different way to choose participants for the expedition, as not everyone wants to kill. An official warns him to watch his tongue and orders a criminal to attack. The man throws a stone at Gabimaru, who dodges it easily. Gabimaru tries to discuss peacefully, but when the criminal refuses, he reluctantly kills him to survive. Gabimaru brutally defeats the other criminals, unsettling even the shogun. Sajiri sees countless souls around Gabimaru through her sword's reflection. She realizes that she doesn't need to rid herself of fear and doubt but must find the strength to bear the burden of the lives she has taken. The officials announce that the 10 most skilled criminals, including Gabimaru, will join the expedition. They board a ship and sail to the island, Shinsenkyo. Gabimaru recalls the village chief's immortality, attributed to a medicine from a distant land. Upon arrival, Gabimaru tells Sajiri the elixir of life is real but uncertain if it's on this island. They explore the beautiful yet eerie island. Gabimaru breaks his restraints, but Sajiri insists he binds his hands, emphasizing her role as his executioner, not his friend. Reluctantly, he complies. Suddenly, a giant steel ball hits him, launched by a criminal named Kion. Sajiri explains Kion is a warrior monk who steals weapons from those he kills. Gabimaru points out Kion's hands aren't restrained. Sajiri questions Kion's executioner, Kisho, who dismisses her concern, criticizing her rigidness. Kion attacks Gabimaru with various weapons, but Gabimaru ties his hands while enduring the blows. Gabimaru ultimately defeats Kion, using his own weapons against him. Kisho beheads Kion and heads back to the ship. Gabimaru wonders if Kisho wants to fight, but Kisho, indifferent, says he's just doing his job and considers himself lucky for leaving quickly. Kisho warns Sajiri about spending time with a dangerous criminal like Gabimaru and predicts the criminals will continue killing each other. Aizen ties their boat to a tree when his criminal, Rokuroda, attacks and eats him. Other criminals meet similar fates, and Kisho reveals more will be recruited from Gabimaru's village and the Amana clan. Kisho warns Sajiri not to let her guard down, making her question Gabimaru's true nature. Suddenly, Gabimaru attacks her but hesitates to kill her. Gabimaru recalls the chief teaching him that emotions make a person weak. He fights Sajiri, who reminds him killing her is against the rules. Gabimaru insists he needs to find the elixir before other shinobis arrive. Seeing Sajiri as a hindrance, he continues his attack, but struggles to kill her, not understanding his hesitation. He recalls his wife advising him to follow his emotions, which have been affecting him since they met. Gabimaru, about to deliver the finishing blow, stops and starts crying, realizing he still has emotions. Sajiri tells him this is not weakness but the seed of strength, encouraging him to reclaim his life and move forward. Meanwhile, the criminal Tamiya gets stung by a butterfly, quickly amputates his hand, and kills the insect, revealing it has a human face. Tamiya's executioner, Fuchi, is confused, but Tamiya explains the butterfly is not from their world. His severed hand blooms into flowers, and more creatures appear, including a giant abomination. Gabimaru and Sajiri are surrounded by a fish monster. Gabimaru tells Sajiri to stand back as he prepares to fight. In a flashback, we learn Tamiya was a skilled swordsman who killed his lord, leading to his arrest. On the island, Tamiya notices Fuchi's dissection tools, who explains the Yamada clan also dissects bodies for medicine. The fish creature attacks Gabimaru, who evades and kicks its head, but the creature grabs his foot and slams him against the ground. Gabimaru remembers the shinobi rule to avoid fighting unknown enemies and considers retreating, but the creature restrains and throws him. Sajiri is surprised Gabimaru is injured, realizing they should run away. However, giants approach them from all directions. Gabimaru goes berserk, using ninjutsu to kill the giants. A giant attacks Sajiri from behind, but centipede monsters restrain her. As the giant strikes, Gabimaru saves her, snapping out of his berserk state. A fish monster attacks, but the executioner Genji arrives and kills it, protecting them. A ninja named Yuzuriha joins the group, praising Gabimaru for single-handedly defeating the monsters. Gabimaru, suspicious of her motives, questions her as she tries to seduce him into working together. He restrains her, stating her seduction won't work, but Yuzuriha claims she was just testing it and insists she genuinely wants to team up. Sajiri is puzzled by Yuzuriha having two executioners. Genji explains that he was assigned to another criminal whom Yuzuriha killed, leading him to believe one executioner wasn't enough to control her, so he decided to join them. However, Gabimaru finds this explanation suspicious, suggesting Genji might have been seduced. The other executioner introduces himself as Senta. Yuzuriha explains the creatures in the area, emphasizing the importance of finding the elixir but warning against rushing in without a plan. Sajiri agrees with the idea of working together, and Yuzuriha clings to Gabimaru, who restrains her again, stating he can't trust her. She argues that trust isn't necessary since they will eventually betray each other, as only one will be pardoned. She suggests using each other for now. Gabimaru backs off, wondering how Yuzuriha can help him. Yuzuriha reveals she has valuable information, warning that the real danger on the island is the human-faced butterfly, which has hallucinogens and poison. She obtained this knowledge by testing the bugs on another criminal she killed. Senta mentions the monster's items have Buddhist designs, which he finds odd. Yuzuriha insists there's still much to learn, so they should work together. Gabimaru agrees to cooperate but remains wary. Sajiri watches them interact, reflecting on her actions since arriving on the island, but she suddenly collapses. In a flashback, a man named Toma is about to become an executioner. Aizen advises him to take the final step by killing a criminal. Toma requests to execute his brother Chobei, telling him it will stop the magistrate's men from pursuing them. In the present, the brothers encounter 3 giant creatures. Chobei quickly attacks them, and Toma reveals his brother's strength lies in quickly understanding situations. The brothers were orphaned and taken by bandits, with Chobei eventually becoming a bandit leader. Chobei fights a giant but retreats with Toma when his knife breaks. A giant grabs Toma's hair, and Chobei returns with an axe, but a monster hits him in the face, declaring that murder is a sin. The creatures speak, making Toma think they're in hell, but Chobei cuts through them, deciding the elixir must be real since monsters guard it. He resolves to eliminate everyone on the island and take the elixir for themselves. Sajiri regains consciousness in a cavern, where Genji tells her she was poisoned by butterfly scales. She immediately gets up, wanting to monitor Gabimaru. She finds him preparing dinner while Senna repairs their clothes. Gabimaru reveals his scouting of the island, noting that missing people have turned into plants. He couldn't find anything resembling the clue they were given, but Senta suggests not relying too much on the illustration, as the officials know little about the island. Sajiri observes that the island's creatures have animal parts on humanoid forms. Senta adds they have religious items, resembling malformed gods, which seem to be the island's theme. Later, Genji tells Sajiri to return to the mainland, believing she's not strong enough to survive, but Senta argues the return trip is perilous, as most don't make it back. Elsewhere, Executioner Tenza and criminal Narugai try to escape the island. They find a destroyed ship and encounter sea monsters, forcing them to abandon their boat. They land on a shipwreck and fight through tentacles, searching for a usable ship. Narugai recalls leading samurai to her village, resulting in its destruction. Tenza found her, believing in her innocence and offering her a pardon. They come across Kisho, now transforming into flowers. A tentacle kills Kisho, reminding Narugai of her dead grandfather. She tells Tenza to leave her, blaming herself for her village's deaths. Tenza defends her, asking if she wants to live, and Narugai realizes she does. They fight together and reach a boat, but the currents and sea monsters prevent their escape, so they decide to gather allies. Meanwhile, Genji insists Sajiri sail home, but Senta argues she could help if Gabimaru becomes uncontrollable. That evening, Gabimaru asks Sajiri if she's feeling better, acknowledging the wound he gave her accelerated the poison's effect. He admits she calmed him down and believes she's stronger than him. He advises her to gain experience to realize her strength. The next day, Sajiri refuses to leave, disarming Genji when he tries to scare her. Suddenly, Rokuroda appears and attacks, blowing Genji away. As a child, Rokuroda had an insatiable appetite and loved using his hands to play with things. He eventually went on a frenzy, eating everyone in his village. Rokuroda targets Sajiri, but Gabimaru intervenes. Gabimaru assesses Rokuroda's strength, realizing his kick didn't hurt him. He decides to observe his opponent before attacking. Rokuroda uproots a tree and throws it at Gabimaru, who dodges it but acknowledges Rokuroda's superior strength. Gabimaru asks for Yuzuriha's help, but she reminds him her role is to gather information, not fight. As Yuzuriha cheers him on, Rokuroda swings wildly at Gabimaru, who evades, knowing a single hit could kill him. Gabimaru's techniques prove ineffective, and he contemplates how to defeat his opponent. Sajiri tries to treat Genji, but he tells her to stop, knowing he can't be saved. He urges her to run, but she refuses, telling him not to give up. Genji realizes Sajiri has chosen her path and gives her his sword, explaining that a warrior's sword is his soul. He asks her to kill Rokuroda, seeing her as one of them. Gabimaru considers using his fire technique but knows close combat is too dangerous. Suddenly, Rokuroda's finger is cut off as Sajiri joins the fight. Gabimaru praises her timing, knowing they need to decapitate Rokuroda. He tells Sajiri to target the leg. Gabimaru deflects Rokuroda's attack, and Sajiri strikes his leg, but it has no effect, and she falls back. She realizes her mistake in being too aggressive and lets go of her emotions. Rokuroda strikes, and Gabimaru evades, but his leg is sprained. Sajiri strikes Rokuroda's arm, but it does nothing. She notes she must strike the gaps between his bones and needs him hunched over to behead him. Rokuroda lets out a powerful scream, overwhelming their senses. He strikes Gabimaru, slamming him against the ground. Gabimaru survives but falls to his knees, coughing up blood. Rokuroda is about to deliver the final blow when Sajiri intervenes. At that moment, she achieves a calm state of mind and deflects the attack with ease, surprising everyone. Senna explains that Sajiri is the lowest-ranked executioner because, as a woman, she isn't deemed suitable to lead their clan. However, the executioners know she is more skilled than most of them. Rokuroda loses his footing, and as Sajiri is about to finish him off, he jumps away. Gabimaru uses fire ninjutsu to throw flaming projectiles, burning everything around them. Yuzuriha runs away, gnawing. Gabamaru plans to suffocate Rokuroda with the smoke. The plan works as Rokuroda falls to his knees, struggling to breathe, and Sajiri prepares to strike the final blow. Rokuroda tries to fight back, but Gabamaru pins his hand to the ground, allowing Sajiri to execute him. Seeing the look in his eyes, Sajiri realizes Rokuroda lived a misunderstood life, not knowing his own strength and accidentally killing people while trying to play with them. Concerned that the fire might attract monsters, Gabamaru and Sajiri leave the area, leaving behind Genji's remains. They hide as giants approach, and Gabamaru suggests heading in the direction the monsters came from, thinking it might lead them to the elixir. They catch up to Yuzuriha and Senta, surprised to find a village on the island. Meanwhile, the brothers venture deeper into the forest and see two beings making out. Chobei wonders if they are monsters, and the yellow one, Jifa, becomes angry at them for ruining the moment. Gabamaru wonders if the island's residents are friends or foes. He sees a girl spying on them and chases after her. He catches up, removes her hood, and is surprised to see she's a child. A tree monster suddenly attacks, and the girl runs away. Gabamaru chases her, thinking she knows something about the island. He dodges the tree's attacks and kicks it away. Sajiri rushes after him, leaving their companions to handle the creature. Yuzuriha removes Senna's glasses, saying she doesn't want him to see her techniques. She drinks from a cup, causing strange liquid to come out of her body. Gabamaru catches up to the girl and grabs her hand, but she throws him to the ground, surprising him with her strength. Sajiri runs after the girl, telling her they just want to talk. The girl stops, letting Sajiri catch up. The girl tries to punch Sajiri, but Gabamaru blocks the attack, noting the girl's extraordinary strength. Gabamaru, desperate, grabs some vines, wraps them around the girl, and suspends her in midair. The girl starts crying, so they release her, and Sajiri calms her down. Yuzuriha joins them, saying she worked hard to defeat the creature. They discuss what to do next when the tree creature tells them to return the girl, offering to take them to the village and tell them about the elixir. Yuzuriha is skeptical, but the mention of a bath in the village changes her mind. The creature leads them to a ghost town-like village, saying it wasn't like this 1,000 years ago. It takes them to its house, where Yuzuriha and Sajiri take a bath while the creature gives the men food. Gabamaru is suspicious and questions the creature about the island and the elixir. The creature explains that the island is called Kotaku, where gods reside, and confirms the elixir's existence, calling it Tan. Gabamaru asks for its location, and the creature draws 3 circles on the floor, indicating they are in the second circle and the elixir is at the center of the island, known as Horahai. Gabamaru asks for proof, and the creature tells them they will believe once they meet the Tenzin, beautiful and immortal beings. We see Chobei after he cuts Jifa in half, but Jifa's body regenerates. The tree claims that the Tenzin are on a completely different level and have no reason to lie, as they will likely be killed by the Tenzin. The brothers are defeated by Jifa and thrown into a pit filled with humans transformed into flowers. Toa helps his brother regain consciousness, and the tree reveals that the lives of those transformed into flowers become the source of Tan, providing eternal bliss. The tree introduces itself as Hako and the girl as Mei, saying they have lived on the island for centuries. Gabamaru and Sajiri encounter Mei in the bath, where Gabamaru tells her not to be ashamed of her scars, recalling how his wife emphasized the importance of rest and bathing. Sajiri is surprised by Gabamaru's words. As they leave, Gabamaru remembers his priorities, realizing he doesn't have time to sit around. In a flashback, we see Tenza, raised in the slums, stealing to survive. One day, he fights a group of swordsmen but is saved by an executioner named Zion. Back in the present, Tenza and Narugai are approached by a Tenzin named Zujin. They try to escape, but Zujin blasts Tenza away. Narugai helps Tenza, and Tenza slashes Zujin's eyes, but they regenerate. Tenza and Narugai try to run, but Zujin blocks their path until Zion throws his sword, giving them a chance to escape. We learn Zion is Tenza's master, who uses his senses to see despite being blind. Zion couldn't find a current to leave the island, sensing an unprecedented presence. He decided to find allies on the island and asks Tenza why he helps Narugai. Tenza explains she is innocent, reminding Zion of how he was taken in. Zion listens and agrees to take them to the current he found, but Zujin suddenly reappears. Zion tries to save them, but his neck starts bleeding. Tenza attacks Zujin but is countered with a flick, creating holes in Tenza's body. In another flashback, Zion sees potential in Tenza and teaches him swordsmanship, telling him it will help protect someone he cares about. Despite his doubts, Tenza continues training and eventually lands a hit on Zion, deciding to stay at the dojo. Back in the present, Tenza, determined to protect his companions, attacks Zujin but is mortally wounded. He tries to signal his companions to escape, and Zion understands, taking Narugai away. Tenza fights to his last breath, allowing them to escape. They mourn Tenza's death, and Xian vows revenge. At the village, Senna struggles to make sense of the information they've gathered. Sajiri advises him to take a break, but he refuses. That evening, Gabimaru remembers the dangers of acting without a plan, knowing there are still many mysteries to solve. But while Senta sleeps during his watch duty, Gabimaru leaves to find Hori. He eventually hears strange voices and reaches an area filled with bizarre trees that appear to be praying. He heads in their direction and finds a giant door, which he believes could lead to the elixir. Before he can open it, Zujin appears and tells him to leave. Gabimaru asks Zujin if he can turn humans into elixirs. Zujin attacks, but Gabimaru swiftly breaks his arm and follows up with a powerful kick, breaking Zujin's neck. However, Zujin's neck quickly snaps back into place. Gabimaru dodges Zujin's attacks and counters with a spinning kick, lighting Zujin's head on fire using his fire technique. The fire consumes Zujin's body, and Gabimaru thinks he has won, but Zujin punches him, sending him crashing against the wall. Gabimaru survives and continues to fight, wondering how to defeat the Tenzin. He lands a kick, causing Zujin to cough up blood, and Zujin transforms into his female form, attacking with a barrage of energy blasts. Gabimaru is brought to his knees but remains determined to succeed. He tanks the blows and dashes forward, closing the distance. They exchange blows with neither backing down, and Gabimaru plans to destroy Zujin faster than he can heal. He manages to tear Zujin's body apart. Zujin then transforms into a giant flower monster and uses a lightning spell, destroying the area. Gabimaru survives but is no match for Zujin's lightning. As his body reaches its limit, he hallucinates, thinking he's with his wife. The monster grabs him, preparing to kill him, but Gabimaru remembers his training to inflict as much damage as possible before dying. He unleashes fire from his body, burning the monster's arm before falling to the ground. Zujin prepares to deliver the finishing blow, but Mei appears and protects Gabimaru with a shield, helping him escape. The next morning, the group searches for Gabimaru and Mei. Hako reveals that there are 7 Tenzin, and we see them gathered, discussing how fierce the humans are. Jufa blames Zujin for failing to defeat the humans, blasting his head off and mocking him for using too much Tao. The ruler of Kotaku, Rain, stops Jufa, reminding him they are a family and only he can punish Zujin. Jufa reports throwing the 2 brothers into the pit, but Rain believes the humans are different from those they've faced before. Zujin claims to have killed Gabimaru, and they share a drink that helps Zujin recover his human form. According to legend, there was a hermit who mastered their art and became a god split into 7 parts, now known as the Tenzin. Hako shares this story, revealing that everyone on the island were once humans who lived long lives but started transforming into trees and losing awareness. Before completely losing it, they gathered at a specific location to ensure their souls would reach Hori after death, explaining the praying trees near Hori. He explains that Hori is the final resting place of souls, but the Tenzin choose which souls enter. Meanwhile, Gabimaru regains consciousness, recalling his encounter with Zujin and realizing the Tenzin are not gods and can be killed. However, he needs a plan and can't do it alone. Fuchi and Tamiya arrive, sizing each other up for a potential fight, but Fuchi suggests gathering information instead. Gabimaru proposes working together, and Tamiya tests him by threatening to strike him down. Gabimaru doesn't move, proving he's sincere. Fuchi asks why Gabimaru wants to work together, and Gabimaru explains about the Tenzin, surprising them with the revelation of such powerful creatures. Fuchi is skeptical, but Tamiya is interested in fighting the Tenzin, revealing he isn't interested in a pardon but wants his name to go down in history. Fuchi wants to dissect the Tenzin remains, so they decide to work together. Gabimaru is about to share more information when Mei wakes up. Gabimaru is surprised to see she has grown up quickly and can now talk. She thanks him for saving his life and asks if she's like the Tenzin. Elsewhere, Senta concludes that the island's religious system is man-made. He believes the creator wanted humans that transformed into flowers to return, seeing it as a clue to finding the elixir and escaping. Mei tells them about the Tao, the power the Tenzin use, but she can only offer a vague explanation. Hako explains that everything in the world is created by the flow of Tao, relating it to the origin of the universe. Despite the explanation, the group struggles to understand. Nurugai tries to ambush Xian, but he disarms her and makes her sheath her sword, saying he won't teach her how to use it. She begs him, not wanting to watch her loved ones die. Xian tells her that everything in the world produces unique waves, which he uses to see. He explains that sensing these waves also improves physical capabilities, similar to mastering Tao. He tells Nurugai she isn't wielding her blade properly and demonstrates how to use it. At that moment, monsters appear, and Xian senses their presence, taking them out one by one while giving Nurugai tips. A group of monsters approaches Gabimaru and his allies, so Tamiya kills them all at once. He lifts Mei, asking her to teach him the power of Tao. As more monsters approach, Gabimaru observes them and sees a silhouette behind them. Meanwhile, two of the Tenzin discuss how humans merge into flowers after being thrown into the pit, allowing them to harvest tan efficiently. They doubt escape is possible, as the transformed humans would stop them. However, we see Chobei climbing out of the pit despite the transformed humans trying to stop him. Chobei is determined to kill the Tenzin, noting their lower body's weakness and suggesting aiming for that area. Toma is impressed by his brother's insight. A monster, the Doshi, appears, saying it received orders from the Tenzin to investigate. It introduces itself as a Doshi, the Tenzin's right hand capable of reason. The Doshi wants the brothers to return to the pit, but Chobei attacks, cutting off its arm. The arm regrows, and the Doshi summons monsters. Toma swiftly deals with them while Chobei fights the Doshi. The Doshi senses Chobei's Tao and mocks attacks from one who can't use Tao. It sees a disturbance in Chobei's Tao and slashes him, causing him to fall. The Doshi plans to return Chobei to the pit, but Chobei drives his fist through its face and stands back up. The Doshi wonders how Chobei regenerated, thinking he merged with the plants in the pit. Chobei senses something from the Doshi, speculating it's the key to defeating the Tenzin. The Doshi attacks to kill, but Chobei blocks the attack. The impact breaks Chobei's arms, but they quickly snap back into place. The fight continues, and Chobei pushes the monster back as it notices his growing Tao. Chobei, unsure of what's happening, hears the monster suggest he's transforming into something non-human. Unfazed, Chobei remarks that nothing in the world stays the same. We learn that when the brothers were captured by bandits, the bandits doubted the boys could join them due to their privileged background. Chobei cut his own eye to prove his worth, earning his place among them. Chobei charges at the Doshi, enduring its energy blasts and landing a hit on its navel, making it cough up blood, confirming it as a weak point. The Doshi jumps back and launches another blast, but Chobei dodges. He now sees the energy around its body, scaring the Doshi, who calls for backup monsters. However, Toma has already defeated them. The Doshi gathers Tao energy, but Chobei stomps on it and replicates the technique, punching a hole in the Doshi's stomach. He senses the Doshi's Tao and realizes it's near death, so he starts asking questions about the Tenzin. Meanwhile, Toma notices vine-like marks growing on Chobei's body, similar to Mei's scar. Tamiya tries to learn Tao while fighting, asking for Mei's help, but she says he's doing it wrong. They observe Gabimaru fighting, but Mei notes he also doesn't fully understand. Fuchi sees Mei as a mystery, wondering who she is, while Gabimaru recalls how she saved him with her power, concluding she isn't a normal human. The Doshi leading the pack recognizes Mei and attacks Tamiya, who blocks but can't stop the monster from taking Mei. The Doshi reveals he's been searching for her since she was banished from the palace and disappeared from Hori. They were forbidden to look for her but are happy to have found her. Gabimaru asks what's happening, and the Doshi explains she feeds off humans like the Tenzin. The monster asks Mei to return to Horaden, but Gabimaru, seeing her sad, reassures her he doesn't want her to cry. A colleague of the Doshi appears, summoning centipedes and butterflies. Tamiya tries to attack but is stopped by a Tao attack. The Doshi explains they want Mei for Tao training. They reveal that mastering Tao involves 5 steps, the most important of which requires a partner, as it involves a male and female making love. They explain that all things have yin and yang energies, which circulate when joined together. Mei has the highest quality yin energy, needed to circulate with their yang energy. She shares origins with the Tenzin but is inferior because she only has yin energy, which led to her banishment. Gabimaru, enraged, refuses to let them take her. The Doshis transform into flower monsters, like Zujin. Tamiya struggles with the butterfly monster while Gabimaru destroys his opponent's arm with his fire technique. The monster fires a barrage of Tao attacks, which Gabimaru dodges despite not seeing them. The warriors fall back, pursued by butterflies, but Gabimaru uses a fire-breathing technique to create a firewall. He notes he can vaguely sense Tao but wants to detect it more precisely. Fuchi explains Mei's words, saying their minds must be both strong and weak to see Tao. Mei helps Gabimaru sense his own Tao. Fuchi explains that mastering Tao requires a specific state of mind, telling Gabimaru to weaken his mind. Initially confused, Gabimaru remembers a moment with Sajiri and begins to understand. Gabimaru prepares to face the monsters as Mei comments on his enormous Tao. The Doshi attacks with Tao blasts, but Gabimaru dodges them and dashes towards the monster. He evades its punch, sensing the movement of its Tao. Touching the monster's fist, he breaks its arm and kicks both monsters. Tamiya, not wanting to be outdone, charges at the centipede monster, slicing it in half while Gabimaru burns the butterfly Doshi. Meanwhile, others open a giant door to Hori, but a Tenzin named Mudon decapitates Hako. Mudan tells them they are the first humans to reach this place. Yuzuriha, scared, tries to run but is instantly grabbed by Mudan, who just wants to talk. Hako tells Mudan that he wants his soul to be invited into Hori, but Mudan reveals their religion was a lie to maintain order. The island is a place for human experiments, and there is no elixir. Consuming tan turns humans into trees, like Hako and other villagers. Mudan invites them to follow him, but Yuzuriha uses her substitution jutsu, attacking him from behind and cutting off his head. They run, thinking the threat is over, but Mudan regenerates and orders the Kyoshi to attack. Yuzuriha evades, knowing something similar to Tao, called Chi, but hasn't mastered it. Mudan invites her to be his Tao training partner, using a Tao attack to blast Sajiri away. Senta cuts Mudan, and Yuzuriha drinks a liquid, secreting snake poison to bind Mudan and burn his skin. She slices him into pieces, but he regenerates, impressed by her application of Tao. Senta and Yuzuriha strike Mudan, but he dodges and grabs Yuzuriha's leg, pushing Senta back. Hako tells Sajiri about the Tensen's weakness, but Mudan lectures Yuzuriha about Tao. Sajiri interrupts, forcing Mudan to jump away. Mudan notes her average Tao but Sajiri launches her sword at his navel, cutting him open. The navel is the Tensen's weakness, but Mudan is unaffected, saying Sajiri hasn't mastered Tao. Sajiri remains calm, exuding Tao energy, and lands a slash, scratching Mudan's face. The wound doesn't regenerate, revealing Sajiri's ability to sense Tao. Mudan prepares to strike, but Yuzuriha restrains him, allowing Sajiri to go in for the kill. Mudan blows Sajiri away, ordering the Kyoshi to attack Yuzuriha, but Senta quickly deals with them. Sajiri continues to pursue Mudan, but he keeps dodging. Her allies cut off his limbs, giving her an opening. Mudan takes to the skies, bombing them with Tao attacks. Sajiri, taking cover, realizes her body is reaching its limit, but Yuzuriha encourages her not to give up. Yuzuriha wraps snake poison around Mudan's leg, but he bombs her with Tao attacks. She endures and slams him into the ground. Mudan gets back up, but Senta stabs him from behind, restricting his movements. Sajiri goes in for the kill, slicing through his navel and making him fall to the ground. Mudan is defeated, but Sajiri despairs, knowing the elixir doesn't exist. In a flashback, we learn Senta never wanted to be an executioner, but his family forced him into it. He studied religion to rationalize killing, which earned him praise and allowed him to rank up. But meeting Yuzuriha made him jealous of her freedom and he started to admire her. Back in the present, Gabimaru stands above the remains of the Doshi, thinking he still needs to master Tao. He asks Mei why she followed him, but blood suddenly oozes from his nose as he collapses. Yuzuriha notices strange flowers in the area. As she points them out, they suddenly attack her. Senna shields Yuzuriha and starts dreaming of painting her as he enters eternal bliss. The attack transforms him into flowers, and a huge flower monster appears. Mudan, still alive, undergoes his transformation and attacks with his flowers, but Zien arrives just in time to save them. He tells Narugai to help them escape and prepares to fight Mudan, recognizing him as a Tensen. Zien has figured out Tao by sensing the waves of a creature and believes he can kill Mudan by cutting his wave directly. Narugai cuts the flower roots transforming Senta, slowing his transformation. Sajiri wonders what to do for Senta, and Yuzuriha decides to try healing him. Meanwhile, Zien fights Mudan and even knocks him back. Yuzuriha is surprised by Zien's strength, and Sajiri sees that Mudan can't heal from Zien's attacks. However, Zien is injured and flowers start growing on his body, but he quickly cuts them off. Sajiri thinks he's losing too much blood and wants to help him. Narugai suggests they all attack together, but Yuzuriha claims she's out of energy. Narugai hugs her and then Sajiri, saying she used to do this to energize her grandfather and tried it on Zien, which seemed to help him recover. Sajiri thinks this has something to do with Tao. They quickly go to help Zien. Sajiri tells him about the weak point in the navel, but Zien notes that Mudan has 2 navels, and even being scratched by his attack would be fatal. Sajiri reveals they covered themselves in Yuzuriha's mucus to prevent scratches and stop flowers from growing, planning to act as decoys for Zien. Mudan appears behind Narugai, but Sajiri protects her and cuts down Mudan's vines. Zien is impressed by her ability to sense waves and use them to predict attacks. Zien prepares to attack, but Mudan blasts him with energy. Sajiri and Narugai cut down some of his vines, and Zien cuts one of Mudan's legs. Mudan's regeneration slows, and Sajiri thinks they might win, but she is reaching her limit. Mudan unleashes his energy at all of them, but Zien charges forward, remembering how he was forced to let Tenza die and refusing to run away again. Sajiri and Narugai pin Mudan's hands. Zien gathers all his power into his blade but wonders if the navel is really the weak point since he doesn't sense waves from there. Time is running out, but Senta suddenly tells him the weak point is the center of the flower, where all the nutrients are. Zien slashes it, defeating Mudan just in time. Sajiri rushes to check on Senta, but Yuzuriha says he doesn't have much time left. Yuzuriha reveals she only has one more self but thinks it would be better used on Zien. Sajiri doesn't want to accept this, but Yuzuriha, being a realist, tells Senta he isn't going to make it and advises him to be true to himself in his final moments. Senta imagines being in the arms of the one he admired. After this, they wonder what to do next. Sajiri refuses to lose any more people, no longer seeing them as criminals and executioners, and decides to do everything she can to ensure they all make it back alive. Meanwhile, Gabimaru wakes up and is instantly on edge. Tamiya tells him to relax, and Gabimaru wonders where they are. Fuchi reveals they found a cave halfway up the valley, and it seems Gabimaru has lost his memory. Sajiri's group continues forward and is surprised to see many statues and temples. They decide to rest in one of the buildings, and Yuzuriha finds them a change of clothes. Zien reviews the information they have so far, noting that Tao is a power everyone possesses and mastering it grants superhuman abilities. However, he warns that overuse of Tao, which is life itself, can cause physical or mental changes, affect memories, and even lead to death. Yuzuriha wonders what to do since the elixir of life doesn't exist and the shogun won't accept that. Sajiri tells them Gabimaru said it exists because his village chief was actually immortal. Yuzuriha thinks that might have been an illusion, as shinobi often used illusions to brainwash and control children, saying they did the same in her village. She also finds Gabimaru's story about his wife strange, thinking she might not exist and could be another illusion by the chief to motivate him. Gabimaru, having lost his memory, only remembers being Gabimaru the Hollow and plays along with the others to gather information. Mei asks if he's okay, and he says he is, but she senses a disturbance in his Tao. Sajiri keeps watch at night and Zien joins her. She thinks about all the people they've lost and worries about Gabimaru. Zien wonders if she likes him. Sajiri finds it sad that Gabimaru is trying so hard to get back to his wife, who might not even exist. Despite him being a killer, she doesn't think he's a bad person and hopes he can reunite with his wife. That marks the end of Season 1. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one.